We're not doing that.
Then I stopped.
You should. That right. Because you
There's
just
some
don't tempt fate.
yeah, like why would you follow my child?
Right.
Weirdo.
You know we're recording too.
Turn that off.
They don't know what we're talking about. This is fun. This is texture. This is the texture. I want them to feel like.
I like that.
Oh gosh. I want them to feel like they're in the studio with us.
Let me see another.
And Jerry.
What do you think? So can see the infinite mic.
All right. We're back for another episode of the End Podcast.
With the matching people. We're matching
we're
today.
Matching. Yeah, we're knocking it out. We didn't even plan this.
We're synchronizing.
Is that what it is? And Keshia's taking selfie.
I'm following Jerry. He did it first.
You know, the funny thing is, like, nobody ever takes pictures of me.
We're doing selfies.
Right. It's so messed up. Anyway, I'm Brandon, a.k.a. djsilk, and I'm here with...
Jerry Franklin Poe.
And...
Keshia Martin.
Taking a damn selfie. just, you know, so what are you communicating when you're out and you're taking selfies?
That we love ourselves.
Is that what that is?
Yup.
And you don't love the mic because you said that off mic, even though the mic's in your
Smile.
face. Got the Colgate smile.
That's right.
There. Thank you. I got a picture. Anyway,
we did try to include him on the first one. Remember?
Yeah,
I did. I said, shouldn't you join us? And he was like, I'm good. And you,
right. And I actually need to take that picture and make the new banner and everything.
So I just had to address that because you were you were like in your victim mode just now, and we're talking about communication. Ensure that
you just took Jerry's thunder.
What are we communicating?
No, I'm not taking.
She did, Jerry. So what are we talking about today? What's on the 10 menu?
Communication. How do we develop positive communication? How do we interpret communications and the signals that others are sending us in our relationships?
And vice versa.
That's far longer than the title that I gave.
What was the title that you gave?
I didn't give a title. I just said we're speaking on communication.
Right. See. And actually, Keshia, you were the motivation. You were the inspiration, I should say, for this topic based on the conversation that we had the other day. And we were talking about communication. And again, that sparked the thought train in my head. And what I've come to realize is that we are very horrible at. A lot of us are very bad at our communication skills, but not just the back and forth, like the day-to-day, the texting, the talking and stuff. I'm thinking more on a deeper level in terms of how we dress, what we post, and even what we don't say to people. Because we're always communicating, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. Like, they feel like if they don't say anything, they're not communicating anything. When actually, that you're saying a lot by saying nothing. You're passing messages, and so that's why I thought it would be cool to talk about this topic in very loose conversation form. Fair warning: we didn't prepare for this. We don't really normally prepare. The last episode I prepared, but now we usually just kind of wing it. So, because these guys are really good. So, do you recall, Keshia, what your issue was that we were talking about with communication at all? Or are you too exhausted to remember?
You can jog my memory a bit, but I believe it was in regards to how with communication, folks don't always listen to hear what the other person is saying, but they listen to respond. That's the part that I recall, but I know we spoke about several things.
Well, it was you have someone in your life that's not respecting you and your special superpower abilities, and you feel like you only hear from that person when they require things, right?
Right.
And how you were really spending a lot of energy trying to basically sever the relationship, more or less. Is that an accurate way to say it?
Yes. I was doing a heart clearing through this training. Yeah. We were doing some cord cutting. Okay, so I do cord cutting a lot in our healing sessions. And so we were doing that and as we were working with our partners, she said that she felt a lot coming out of my heart space. And at the end of it, the guy training us was like, well, don't be surprised if you hear from the person that was there. Now, I'm pretty in tune with energy, right? So I usually know who the person is. So this one I did not feel. I'm like, oh, none of the exes. I'm already dealt with all things like that. And I was telling Brandon, have no clue where this may be from. And then um, I woke up the next morning and then I had a message from somebody, a female, from like one something in the morning. And I'm like, wow. And the friendship severed in a way, or in a space where I wasn't in a really good space. And I don't feel as though she was being receptive. Anyway, um, she didn't come back to address the issue. She was like, I really need your help. So then midday, I'm like going through the training and listening to the training. And then I feel it coming back, like the attachments coming back into my system. And I'm like, mm-mm. So then I do my own cord cutting and clear it. And as I did the cord cutting, about not even 10 minutes later, that person must have felt it. And I got another message. So then I'm like, and then I tried to like express my emotions to a current friend of mine.
Right.
And I felt unseen and unheard. Yeah.
So we were discussing this, and if I remember correctly, because I was actually pretty tired as well. I've been tired, been working a lot. Like, my questions to you were, what were you saying to this person to kind of give them the idea, like to let them know where your discomfort was or where you were unsatisfied in the relationship? You remember me asking you that, more or less?
No, but we could just have the discussion in present time.
Oh shit! Look, she about it.
Yeah.
So how have you? So she pulls on you. She draws from you. You are a vessel for which she fills her cups with, but she's never bringing the vessel to a spigot to fill it up. Meaning she's not pouring back into you, right? Mm-hmm. She's just a drain. How have you communicated, if at all, have you communicated to her that the way she operates a relationship is not good for you or you're unhappy with it?
At the time I did. The relationship has been severed. So when it gets to a point,
yeah, she said it like confidently, like the relationship has been severed.
Yo, man, she went to the other realm with like some virtual scissors and just snip.
Yeah, I'm like done. Like if you hurt me to a certain degree, it's done. You know, like it hurt, and unless you can acknowledge that, okay, I hurt you, and come back with some level of apology and compassion to the thing, then we can't move forward, you know? And now I can always love you and always wish the best for you. And if I see you on the street, I still say hi. But as for bringing people back into my life on that space, that's not something I'll do. Because there has to be a mutual respect of the relationship and compassion on both parts. It can't just be one-sided. And when I felt that attachment coming back in, my thing was pull back. And when I called you, I have a current friend, and her whole thing was like, well, aren't you spiritual? Shouldn't you just care about everybody? Mm-hmm. And that made me like, okay.
Pull back.
It pulled back because I'm like, well, how are you judging me like that to say, aren't you spiritual? Spiritual doesn't mean you're supposed to get walked over.
Right.
You know, and then I felt bad. Like she made me feel bad. Like, and then that's when I had called Brandon. I was like, Brandon, what do you think about this? You know, because I was like, wow, like here's a friend. So I had multiple friends, you know, and then so I called another female friend when she and I were talking about it, and I ran the situation by her. She responded completely different than the initial friend. She responded like Brandon. She was like, for real? No, she didn't come back. And she didn't apologize. Like she responded that same way. She was like, she has to know she was wrong. You told her, and she's not acknowledging your feelings. And no, that's not okay. You know? Yeah.
Okay. All right. But for those of us, I guess, you know, trying to find these teachable moments for people, those of us who don't have the ability to go into the other realm and with their scissors and cut ties,
they do, we can talk them through it.
Oh, you want to talk them to it?
Yeah, after you finish what you're saying, we can talk them through it.
All right. For those of us who don't want to go into the other realm and cut those virtuals, use our virtual scissors to sever ties. Like, I guess I'm trying to avoid even getting to that point. My question is, leading up to you getting to that point, how did you communicate that you were unhappy with the way the relationship was?
How did I communicate? I told her.
Just blank. Like, I don't like
Yes.
the way you do me. Don't do me like this.
Right.
And she just did whatever. She just did her thing, huh? Okay.
So my thing is, all right, so like off of my specific particular situation, like in life, what you have to do is, and I think a lot of folks can't grab what we're saying is that's it. But we had a conversation in regards to toxic relationships and ending
Yes.
that
Mhm.
before.
Yep.
And and anybody that's been my friend, even the ones that I was, a couple of them listened to our podcast, they thought it was great. And they phoned me, they were like, yeah, Keshia, you're definitely like that. I do tell you if I think that there's something that you hurt my feelings on, and doesn't mean like I'm super sensitive, but if it's something, if I value you as my friend, and I think everyone should do this, if you value a person in your life as your friend or your family member, somebody that you love, and something is bothering you about the situation, one, it's good to like reflect, think in about your actions, your way of being, and what it is. And if you have to talk to someone like I did with Brandon and some other friends, then you do that to do the checkup from the neck up. But then, two, you definitely want to address it with the person, whether it's face to face, over the phone. You have to tell them, like, listen, this is what happened. This hurt me, blah, 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 blah. And if there, one or two things will happen, and we mentioned it in the toxic relationship segment that I think people should definitely go back and take a listen to, is really ensuring that you're speaking to the person and that they're listening. And if you're on the opposite side and you're in the situation where you're looking at this person like, oh, well, this friendship isn't working and she done left me or whatever, you have like hostility towards it. I think whoever is the one who has the hostility towards it is the one that really needs to reevaluate something. Because
Right.
that means you have some level of emotion that you haven't processed, whether it's a pain that's being masked, which is ultimately masking a hurt, and you haven't gotten down to that hurt either. So if someone's listening to this and they're thinking of a relationship where they're still kind of salty or upset about why this friendship doesn't work anymore, or you don't care that the person works anymore, but you're not talking to them anymore, any of that form of negative emotion is when you have that much stigma to it, is something that is an indicator that you haven't healed from it. When I saw it, I looked at it, I was like, huh. And then when it was coming back, that bothered me. So for me, it was the principle. Like, how are you going to do? And we haven't even talked. Like, I would see if she was coming back. Now, if she came back and was like, Keisha, you know what? I miss our friendship. Oh, God, I miss our friendship. And I would like to. I got to post.
With the
No, just
messy
keep going.
background.
Oh, I gotta
She
keep.
gotta
Oh, all
She
right,
can't
fine. Okay,
multitask,
all right.
man. She can't multitask.
All right, I'll
The
multitask.
struggle is real.
So, right, if she had came back and was like, Keisha, I miss you and I want to talk to you about our friendship and why things went bad, that would have been different. I would have been more than welcome to have the conversation. Let's talk about it. Some time has passed. Let's catch up. Let's work it out. And then maybe we would be friends again. But because that conversation is not happening, it makes me say, no, I can't. I'm not, I choose me.
All right. So, do you feel that she is capable of that level of thought and that level of communication and action?
I do. And if a person isn't, I think here's my advice for the listeners. You have to choose yourself first over anything, especially when it comes to the relationships. Like I see so many people making excuses for folks in their lives, and then they continue to accept certain people back in, and then the same repeated behavior is happening. And while that repeated behavior is happening, they're stressed out, and then they feel energy drained, and then they're now in a negative energy about this person. And now all because they are not sticking to their core values and choosing themselves first.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
But if you hold your ground and stick to it, you know, even if they're not capable right now, it's like another segment that we did, you know, failing up.
Mhm.
You know, that they had some great nuggets in that episode as well, failing up. So if you guys haven't listened, listen to that one too, because we talk about the same scenarios of like judgment and allowing yourself to like reconnect, you know, into your own. So relationships are things that we can also fail at, you know. So when you have a situation with a person and you're realizing you have this negative emotion, it might be a sign that you really miss the person and you really want that person back into your life. But your ego and the stubbornness and all the mistakes are getting in the way. So this is just a part of failing up as well, where you're allowing yourself to say, okay, I kind of messed up here. Let me humble myself and allow myself to admit that I was wrong, and let me talk to this person so that way we can work it back out and regain the friendship, because I do see your value more. I did fuck up or mess up, and screw that. Let's see if we can be friends. Because if anybody comes to me with that approach, I'm more than willing to accept you back in. But I can't accept I can't accept you not owning yourself and me self-sacrificing and dealing with it. That's not fair to me.
Gotcha. That what you're proposing takes a pretty advanced level of self-awareness, understanding of oneself, as well as understanding the relationship and what you want out of the relationship. So what I'm wondering is, and not just for you, but just for most people,
Mm-hmm.
long-term relate we have friendships with people, and we talked about in toxic relationships. Jerry had made a brilliant point about, like, hey, you outgrow, like, sometimes you just outgrow relationships. Nobody did anything wrong. We're
Right.
just moving at different paces, and so it's just not working. But it I wonder, can that be avoided if, as we are starting to fall out of pace with one another, we do a better job of communicating that we're falling out of pace and giving the person the opportunity to make adjustments, or they can tell us something that makes us understand that, okay, I'll make an adjustment, I can slow down, or I can do this. You see what I'm saying? That you get
I
that?
I think people do that, but I think what happens is we have a way of being tone deaf to the people that we're closest to. So then they ignore the signs, especially because they're used to you as a person.
No signs, but that's what I mean. Like, and so that's why I wanted to talk about communication, because there's signs. It's like, okay, I want you to notice that we're there's distance coming between us.
That
But how often are we saying, hey,
that's
Jerry, we used to hang out once a week and go to the strip club, and we don't do that anymore. What's going on? And Jerry's like,
hypothetical situation. Hypothetical situations here.
Right. And Jerry in turn would say, because Jerry's highly evolved and elevated and has a high emotional IQ, says, hey, Brandon, I'm married with kids, and it just doesn't work for me on a financial level. It doesn't work for me on an emotional level. It doesn't work on my relationship. And that's why we can't go to the strip club every week. We can go once a month. I can handle that.
Hypothetically.
Right. But we can do, why don't we go bowling once a week? Or
Right.
why don't we do something else, right? How often does that happen? And I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that it doesn't happen a lot at all, because we are so we're throwing out signs. We're like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, if I can jump in.
Yes, please do.
A lot of what you're describing takes a high level of personal growth and development on, I won't necessarily say both parties, but at least one of the parties.
Right.
And it also requires an extreme, well, let me take that back. It's not, I'll say extreme, but it takes a focus on nurturing the relationship.
Right.
So we can speak to it just in reality. Like our relationships have changed over the years, but it was like there's this mutual thing. Like I think a lot of it has to do with the strength that the relationships were based on to begin with.
The foundation.
The strength of the relationships that they're based off of, and the willingness of both parties to actually listen to each other and hear what that person needs, right? And acknowledging what that person needs. So when you're describing what you just, the hypothetical situation, it sounds like, this person is missing something, wants to hold on to what they're missing, and then just how do we continue to get it to grow? So when we think about communication requires really, it's two parts to communication. Like when we define this, and the simplest way to define it, it's all about understanding a message. So if there's no understanding, then there's no communication, because there's the sender and there's the receiver. So the sender sends the message, receiver receives the message. And if their parties don't do their responsibility, like, so the sender's message is not heard and the receiver doesn't understand, then the communication doesn't exist. And I think a lot of times in relationships, we're talking to each other, but we're not actually communicating to each other.
Right. And the signs I was referring to is regards to like a relationship. Like most of the times, our communication is not verbal. It's body language. People, when they become close to you, they pay attention to your habits. So you can verbally say to somebody, I didn't like how you said that to me, or I didn't like that you did this, or no, I can't go out to this thing. And then they watch you with your life, because they communicate with you, they're your friends. And they watch how you say you don't like something, and then you make a compromise.
Right.
So then when you say that to them verbally, even though they heard you, they're paying attention to your actions and what you're willing to compromise on.
Right.
So those are the signs that I think it happens more often than we realize, and that affects a lot of communication. So for example, say you tell we'll use Jerry as the example, hypothetically. What if Jerry says, okay, on the way home, I'm going to stop at the grocery store.
Right.
And then he comes home and she's like, well, what did you get? And he's like, nothing. Eventually, when he's making pit stops somewhere, she's going to start to believe the action and not the hypothetical, not what you verbally told her. You understand what does that make sense?
The action speaks louder than the words.
Right. So in friendships, you have your boy that you hang out with all the time and that you might vent to. And you might say, yeah, I don't like how this coworker does this. Da, 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 da. I'm going to quit one day. Eventually, he's like, he's not quitting.
Right.
And I think that's what happens with friendships. So they hear you say that. So when you're telling them, you know what, if you do this again, if you say that if you're gonna do something, you cancel out last minute, I'm not coming with you anymore. They just tune you out. They'll keep doing it last minute.
Right, but that requires that your actions match up with your words, like what you intend. Like if you say I'm going to quit, then you have to quit, right?
But those are the signs that I'm referring to in regards to friendships and what they pay attention to, because the nonverbal communication is stronger than the verbal communication.
So are you saying, maybe just to be clear, you're saying, so when we're communicating, I know what you're saying, but to the audience, so you're conveying that when we're looking at communication as a whole in our interactions with other people, that there can be miscommunication established based on what you're saying and what you're doing not lining up. So you're telling this person, I don't like this, or I would prefer this to be a certain way, but then you are doing something that's opposite of what you said. So they're really believing what you're doing and they're not believing what you're saying. So they're not taking you seriously in the need to change any behavior. Like whatever you said you didn't like about their behavior, or you wanted them to adjust about their behavior, they're not taking that seriously because your actions are indicating that you weren't serious about what you said. About
something else. Yeah, because we wonder why certain conflicts happen in relationships, because there are people out there who verbally tell somebody, hey, I'm not liking this about that. And I don't think it builds up to one big thing where somebody finally explodes and says, oh, I'm going to end the friendship. I think that folks are usually communicating with their boys and their girls, on a regular basis, or their family members, hey, I didn't like that, or whatever it is. I think they're continually saying something. But I think why it gets ignored is because they watch our behavior in other aspects of our lives when we're venting about things, and then we go back and you do something. You understand what I'm saying? Does it make sense?
It makes sense. So you're kind of making my point, right? So, and this goes with communication, our overall communication. You have to have the behaviors to match it. So, like, if I tell you, Keshia, like, hey, if you're late again, when you get here, the door's going to be locked. You're not going to be able to come in, right? And then you're late again,
The door's open.
and the door is open. What have I communicated? That I'm not really about my word. So later on, this happens 5 to 10 more times, and I'm complaining to Jerry that you're always late, right? But whose fault is it really? Because I haven't held up my end of the bargain, which was that first time you were late again. I should have locked the door, and you needed to suffer the consequences.
I'm not always late, by the way.
Hypothetically,
This is all hypothetical.
It's all hypothetical. Hypothetically,
I was kind of feeling attacked.
It's like this is the hypothetical episode. The hypothetical episode.
I got him on the hypothetical spit. But that's kind of what I was getting at, right? We have, when we talked about toxic relationships and toxic people, and I was using my example, I can take ownership in the fact that the relationship that I was speaking on, a lot of the reason why it was toxic is because I did a poor job of communicating what I didn't like. I wasn't, and by not communicating what I didn't like, this person has no idea that they're rubbing me the wrong way,
right?
That they're doing these things. Before you got here and we were talking, Jerry and I were like just chatting. It was talking about like people in social media who they'll post crazy shit, right? And then when people hold them to account and I mean treat them based on what they post, they'll then turn around and be like, I'm not that person. I'm just posting on social media. Like that's not me. That's not who I am. I don't know why you would think this.
Right.
It's like, wait, but you're posting it on your social media. Like, how else am I supposed to think you are? You're posting these crazy things consistently. It wasn't a one-off post. So again, and so I think as a society, we're really struggling with the idea of how people perceive us because we're really dumb about our understanding of what we're communicating based on what we put out there, the clothes we wear, how we treat, the words we use, how we speak, all of these things. And it's just amazing to me. It really is a weird thing. Does that make sense, Keshia May?
It does make sense. Okay. I kind of got distracted again.
Lord.
No, but it does make sense what you're saying. And it really, I was actually thinking while you were speaking too, because it brought up a point of the episode and failing forward, and it made me kind of reflect even in my hypotheticals and what I had mentioned in regards to when you're venting, you know what I mean? So when you're failing forward, right, you have to keep overcoming your old self. And your old self could have been 2 hours ago. It could have been yesterday. And in that space, it may not be easy. So none of us are perfect, and nor will we ever be perfect. So there's times even in your intimate relationships, it's not that you're so critical you have to be your words to your action, because right now all of us are work in progress to get to that space, but you could be an entrepreneur like myself, and you may be venting about your new thing you had to fail forward on again because WD 29 didn't work, So now you got to go to WD 30, WD 31, and in that process, you're like, oh, maybe I should quit, and you're right, and you're struggling within your own inner battles, and then you go back in. So your words and actions cannot align in that way, also because you're fighting your old self and moving forward,
Right.
And that's what I was referring to in my scenarios in regards to speaking up and in words and actions, because there's plenty of times I get frustrated and I'm ready to quit. but then I'm like, no, I'm not going to quit. I get back up in it. But I'm still a human being with my regular stresses. So there's times some of it has to come out, but I've been working progress as well as in regards to your words have power. And the more you speak it, the more you bring that into your life and circulate it forward, And I think that message, maybe that could be our another episode in regards to communication, is watching how you communicate. Now, in your scenario, you had mentioned that you had a tendency to bottle it up. Now, you're aware of this. The question for you would be, what are you doing to transition from that? Because we've discussed
nothing. Not a damn thing at this point.
Okay. Well, at least that's honest and fair. But we're aware that the more you bottle it up energetically, it can then create something in your body.
I do understand that. I'm not bottling it up. I'm just letting people go. Because I have to make a calculation, right? And the calculation is, how important is this relationship to me? How important is this person to me? Do I want to extend the energy to try to get things on track? Because odds are, if I am not communicating with you about things that you're doing that are pissing me off, then I've already lost. I don't see the same value in the relationship as I did before. We maintenance what's important to us.
So if you do see the value in the relationship, do you communicate it if they do something wrong?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So let's just say, all right, well then that's different.
Right. But for the sake of this podcast and this conversation and getting people to think about how they communicate, I think it's important to point out that just like any problem that you have, like if you have a leak, while it's small, it's always cheaper and easier to just go ahead and swap the washer out while it's a, it's a 10, 15 cent fix and maybe take you 5 minutes versus just letting it go and go. And then next thing you know, you have water damage and you need and now 15 cents is turned into a couple $100 or maybe in several $1,000s worth of damage. Communication is the same way. If I guess just in my social media example, every post matters. Every post matters, right? If you're going to have a moment of putting up some fuckery, then understand that that's now going to be attached to how people perceive you. Now, if it's one time, it's not the impact. It shouldn't be that significant unless it's a really bad post. But now that's part of how people will perceive you. They'll know that's a facet of your personality, something that you like or interested or part of your sense of humor. I've just had enough of people being upset because they're being treated based on what they post. Right. But then they don't want to be held accountable. It's like they want to rob the bank, and then when they get caught by the police, they're like, "But I'm not a bank robber. I've never done it before." Like this doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, well, communication requires accountability,
right?
So you have to. Well, I should say you have to. One of the things that I always ask myself is, what am I communicating? So whether it be a post, video, body language, what are you wearing, where you cut your hair, I'm always thinking about, what message am I sending? What am I communicating? And am I conveying the messages that I really want people to get from me? And if what I'm about to say, what I'm about to do, doesn't match up to the message that I really want to send, then I'll alter it. I just don't think that people focus on the concept. We live in this free, one of the things I was thinking about the other day is posting the Bill of Rights, because people are always quoting amendments, right? They're always like First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, right? They're always shouting out amendments, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, do you know what the amendment actually said? What does it say? Let's look at the words of the amendment before you start. So we got this free speech society. We talk about communication is all about free speech. Man. And when we deal with the what are we communicating, right? This free speech world we live in, free speech society. A lot of people want the freedom to say anything, do anything, without having to deal with the accountability or the consequences that come along with that. Like if you if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, you're gonna get punched in the eye.
You should get punched in the eye. At
You know,
least you should.
and that's just the way it goes, right? So you gotta like I was telling my daughters about a challenge I had with one of my college roommates, and like I was mad, upset, and I wanted to fight him, but I didn't because he was a 3rd-degree black belt. So like I knew it wasn't gonna work out. Like no matter what I did, I could have brought all the heat that I had. You know what I mean?
I
But
heard the Delaware in them. I didn't.
you know,
I know, right?
But
Shit, man. It only takes one hit. It only takes one. I've seen martial art
But I'm
dudes
just
get
saying,
flayed
I'm
out.
just-
But for
you know,
the sake of this example.
but I'm saying
right.
like I'm in my mind, I'm like this may not the odds
They're
that
against you, right?
this work. I might get one in, couple in. It could work out my favor, but the odds of this long, like being a win for me on a consistent basis, you know, it's not going to be a win. So I was like, all right, I gotta let it slide, let this one slide. And I think when we communicate, there's nonverbal communication, there's verbal communication, and I think sometimes when it comes to communication, people take the easy way out. They rely on nonverbal communication to deal with the things they should be communicating verbally. They don't want to say something, so I'm gonna let my
Right.
lack of presence, I'm gonna let my body language, I'm gonna try to convey something in a non-confrontational way. Like we're gonna be non-confront. I don't want to have any drama, I don't want to have any confrontation, so I'm not gonna say anything, but I'm gonna try to do other things that hopefully they get the hint. We're trying to give people hints,
Right.
and that's where I think we get the challenges, is that everybody don't know how to pick up on the hints.
Well, no, I think actually the challenge is we don't understand the weight of our nonverbal communication. It's not, that's the problem, right? That you think that by not saying anything, you're sending this message, or you're sending one message, but all you're doing is you're putting yourself in a position to allow the person that you're trying to send the message to make up their own
Interpretation,
version, interpretation of what you're trying to say, which is very dangerous. That is very dangerous.
Reminds me of an artist in a painting, and how we're looking at the artist might have had an idea what they were painting, and then when it's up on the wall, now people are seeing all the stuff that they want to see, which may not have been what the artist intended for us to see.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know what it is too?
No, tell us.
Why you look at me like that? Why am I telling you now? I'm gonna sit here.
Well, you got to tell the people,
I don't have to.
but you should.
I could want to.
You should, because they subscribed up. So shit.
I don't know, Jerry. You think I should go with what I want or what I should?
I think you should do what's best for the audience.
There you go.
Then we'll ignore Brandon. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We should do what we want. But to answer what was coming to me is the energy behind it. Because I was thinking about, as you guys were saying it out loud, I thought about it. Like, there's times that the body language, it has a weight to it that we're discounting, and there's an energy inside of that weight. So the same way, like we do certain things, like the example I mentioned, where they pay attention to how you're behaving on certain things, and they may use that in their mind to discount with your actions and your words. And then when we decide we're going to ignore them and not talk to them anymore, we figured that should do it too, right? But the energy behind that, there was something that you said just now, Brandon, that's bringing this to me. Because the energy behind that, when you ignore them, is also, I'm just going to push them away. So when that energy is there, I'm going to just push them away, is present. It becomes stronger than you walking away. So then if you're having this small form of energy, thinking they'll notice, they'll reach out to me, because what's inside of you is so much stronger that I'm just going to push them away, they're not going to notice, because that energy is stronger, that one wins. So now, without speaking, two people have separated and they don't know why. Especially one has no clue why, because you're stronger than you realize energetically. So instead of just automatically, and it takes practice, because we didn't know, So we're all in this growth phase. So one is forgiving yourself and being easy on it. But then two, instead of walking away, if it is somebody that you value and it is somebody that you actually want in your life for whatever reason, maybe it's not up close and personally in your inner circle, but maybe they on the exterior, 5 layers over. It's just somebody that maybe y'all can do business with or hang out with later. Whatever your value is to it, instead of energetically tying into yourself, I'm going to push you away, send it out with love and allowing, and it takes time to get to a love phase. I get it. Because sometimes it's eye for an eye in this world. You know what I mean?
Right.
But allowing yourself to say, you know what, sending out the energy of them trying to understand and trying to reach out to you because some part of you really wants them to come talk to you about this.
That's deep.
Yes, it is deep.
That's why the energy cord cutting was so much. I didn't know I had something with her. I didn't even feel it. Usually if a cord's being cut with me, I know exactly who it's being cut with, This one wasn't even something that was in my vortex. So something that she was still holding on to. And each time it got cut, she reached out to me. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's I think really deep. That's what bothered me too. I'm like, okay, so you really realize my value. You see the value in our relationship, but it's still too hard for you. Even if she does know, it's still too hard for you to come to me and say, yeah, you know what, I messed up or I'm sorry. Sometimes it's just 2 words, I'm sorry.
Right. But then that goes back to what I was saying before about an emotional IQ. The ability to understand, because sometimes
it's the fear too of rejection that someone might have.
Rejection, or like not even understanding how deep or how serious it is.
Right.
Like that, like the chasm that is between, she doesn't realize that is as bad as it is. Because a lot of times people will assume that they don't hold as much value in the other person's life as they do. Mm-hmm. And so they can't fathom that they could do anything that would hurt that person because they just don't think that they're that important. You know what I mean? So there's that angle, that possibility. The other possibility of it is that the intellectual IQ, the emotional IQ, not intellectual, the emotional IQ is not high enough at this point in time to understand that what's going on.
Right. And if that's the case, that's fine. I could still love you from afar, and that's what a person needs to understand with their own personal boundaries. Because if you've gotten to the point where you are complete and you've resolved your emotional being, like right now I'm resolved, then it's okay. Because you're not here to save everybody on this planet. Nobody is. And just because you had one encounter with a person doesn't mean that you have to carry them on your back. Or I wasn't carrying her on my back, but it doesn't mean you have to carry them with you all the way through the rest till death do you part.
Right.
Yeah, and that's fine.
So I guess it's safe to assume that let me ask a question instead of assuming. Did she ever hold a high value to you in your life, in the relationship, like from beginning to end? Was it a relationship that you truly, truly valued, or was it more so like she was a friend / acquaintance?
No, we were high value friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's not the question. The question is when you value who you are and what you're doing. Like right here, we have Jerry. We're going to put him back in hypothetical mode.
Damn. Okay.
Jerry, you love your family, right?
Yes.
You're protective of the people that you love, right?
Yes.
Are you going to allow anyone or anything to disrupt you and your peace from your family?
No.
Exactly. There we are. That's where I am.
So she was disrupting the peace of your family?
The minute I get disrupted, it disrupts everything. Because Jerry, you're the provider, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am too. I'm a single mom. Anything that disrupts me emotionally, mentally, spiritually, or physically will disrupt me and my family because they rely on me.
For the sake of those listening, my wife is also a provider because I have to go home later.
Yes, she is.
Oh, Lord. There's nothing but disclaimers out of Jerry. Like,
I gotta drive back to Pennsylvania.
Oh, right. I guess I'm trying to understand, Keisha May, your level of communication. Because what I'm learning
I feel like
as I
this is
get
a
old.
Keisha communication thing, right, Jerry? Why are you quiet today?
Well, I'm taking it both of y'all going back and forth. So I'm like
It's kind of turned around on Keisha.
Well,
I'm
no,
listening.
no, it's like, okay, like as I mentioned before in the example that I used,
Mm-hmm.
there were plenty of times that I could have communicated my dissatisfaction when it was small things.
Okay.
And all along, and maybe, and to be fair, that person, whenever I did express something that I didn't like, they were very receptive to like, make the adjustment. And it really is on me that I didn't exercise that. I didn't do more of that, because I'm a non-confrontational person, admittedly.
All right, you are.
So I guess where I'm going with it is that for all of us, it's important to speak up, like consistently, like especially if the person is of any value to you, or the relationship is of any value, to consistently speak up, and then understand that what you're communicating when you don't say anything. When someone does something that pisses you off and you don't say anything to them, all you're saying is that it's okay for you to do these things or say these things, because I'm not saying anything. And in the grand scheme of things, when the shit hits the proverbial fan, it's kind of unfair to that person, because they didn't see that coming.
Exactly.
You know?
Right. And I see what you're getting at now, Brandon. With I think it's good that we always communicate. Now, if you're blocked, like I gave the example of why the person might not understand in regards to the signals and them paying attention to how you handle other things in life. That's my reasoning to understand and accept people for where they are. But I think it's always best that you at least say something. And if the first time they dismiss it and they think like you're joking because blah, 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 then the next time you might have to be like, you know what, you might have to do when you're together, like physically, like put your hand on the person. When I put my hand on Jerry, like, you know what, hey, I'm actually serious, like,
Right.
like no, all jokes aside, like I like, and it just like by doing something like this, like touching their shoulder or something, it draws their attention and awareness, and then it puts that human connection in, and like, now this is serious. Like, I would like this, and two, no one likes to hear that they're doing something wrong. Like in our episode of Failing Failure, just from the failing forward, sorry. Just from our episode of Failing Forward, Jerry and you brought up great examples of when you're babies. Like you had made a storyline in regards to when a baby starts to learn how to walk and they're falling up the steps, those levels of expectation. Well, that same human being had went through the same school system. They have learned that when they make a mistake, something is wrong. So when it's time to hear that they're doing something wrong in their relationship, on top of the things they normally vent to you about that they feel that they're screwing up on in life, they don't know how to take it. So then it's instant for them to want to put the wall up. And also, as the listener in that friendship, when you hear, it's easy to come up with a judgment as an observer to think how they may handle it and then not give them a chance. So then when you hold your breath and not tell them, hey, this is what's wrong. So there's two scenarios. There's the observer, and then there's the person that's doing something, or not doing something in the relationship. And in both instances, it comes back into that other episode of failing forward, because both parties have made mistakes, and hearing where they're doing something wrong is not easy. And the person telling them has the fear also that they may not be accepted, or they may not be heard, or they may also be rejected in the process.
Right. So I'm going to focus in on the person who has the beef.
Mm-hmm.
And just us collectively learning how to be better about expressing when someone does something wrong, because it's all about the messaging, right?
It is.
Somebody says something inappropriate or does something wrong that doesn't, doesn't that we don't like, we don't have to deliver the correction with venom.
No, we don't.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
so that's part of the whole communication equation here. Learning how to express when someone has done something or continuously does something that we don't like, figuring out the proper way of saying it so that that information can be taken in the best way possible, and so that person has a way to not be embarrassed, make the correction, and then hopefully grow, and the relationship grows in the right way. Um, and that's like the basis of this whole conversation, and kind of what I wanted to talk about, like us being more responsible about how we communicate verbally, non-verbally, from fit to finish, because we have a tendency to look at the world, and when things go wrong, how are we the victim, or how are we the how have we been wrong, right?
Right.
Versus taking a step back and being like, okay, even if we in the end we are the victim, and how, we were wrong, there's a lot of opportunity before we got to the place of complete victimhood, where we could have stood up for ourselves, or we could have just communicated what we needed to communicate to avoid getting to that point. And that's the angle that I'm approaching this at.
That makes sense. And then
It sounds like there's a tenet. I guess that would be where you describe it as a tenet of accepting 100% responsibility.
Yes.
So whatever I'm experiencing, whatever I'm going through, I am a cause in this matter, and not putting the cause on the other person, doing it to you. But what are you doing what are you doing in this situation that's perpetuating what you're experiencing?
Yes. So what have I contributed?
Yeah. What you're saying is, with communication, and specifically communications in relationships. And when we look at relationships, this is not just personal relationships. This could be professional relationships. There are people who aren't communicating what they need to in their professions, their jobs, where they work, and there are things that they are suffering through that are bothering them because they don't say anything about it.
Right.
And they're giving their power away. What you're describing is giving your power away. And that has you even feel worse, because now it's like, something's happened to me, I don't like it, and I don't know how to do anything about it because it's the other person that I can't control. When there's things that are within you that you could be doing that are allowing this to persist. So what I hear you saying is going back to this idea of taking 100% responsibility and saying, I am accountable and I am responsible for what I'm experiencing. So what can I do to change this? And am I going to work to accept it, or I'm going to work to change it to make it better?
Right. And that leads into what I was that was great. Thank you. And both of you. And really appreciate it.
I receive it.
Brandon gave a great lead in. Jerry gave in a good summary. And I wanted to speak about what I know that I'm missing and sharing here.
Hold on.
Why? Seriously. I had a moment.
Right.
There's not like a
No, you're like, I messed up.
No, I didn't really mess up. It was like a wow.
Okay. All right.
You know.
Right. Hold on. Let's see.
Yeah.
That. Okay.
I like that.
The soundboard.
Asking we sure. See, that was a great demonstration of communication.
Yes.
He gave a sound effect I didn't like, and I shared it, and then he understood. He had compassion for me, and then he delivered.
Yeah.
That was outstanding between the two of us.
Yes, it was. That's how it works, man. Asking, you shall receive. I'll do my best. But go ahead. What was your point?
Okay, so what I was thinking was, like, in regards to what Jerry was saying, in regards to you have to have 100% accountability, is one, a person has to do a checkup from the neck up. You know, they have to be able to check themselves. So that way you're not coming at them, as Brandon mentioned, with venom, you know? That's not cool. Then you're going to contributing into a toxic relationship. So one, checking yourself from the neck up. Two, if you have, and usually do this by yourself, you can get a pen and paper, write the pros and cons to the situation and work yourself through it. Two, if you notice that there's a trigger aspect of yourself, then identifying what the trigger is. Is there some form of some emotional thing from another situation that this is stemming from that you need to work on and heal? Or is this is something that's specifically dealing to this situation? Three, you can do a cord cutting technique. This is something I can walk us through now, you know? So that way you're removing the toxicity of you, of what's going on between you and this particular person, whether it's your coworker, your friend, your family member, your partner, whoever. But what it does, it doesn't really cut them out of your life. But what it does, it removes the negativity between the two of you. And how you can do this, or we can do this in real time now if you guys want to close your eyes.
No, I'm thinking about this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, do we want to give this away? Should we make them work for it? Like, just record it, and then if they subscribe or they send a message, they get this portion of the video
As a bonus for
As a bonus?
subscribing.
as a bonus. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
I
Well, I
like
can always cut it out and edit it. So this was gonna happen if I'm about to let her do it, and if you hear it, then you know it's just free. But if you don't hear it and it just jumps to the music and we closing out, then you're gonna need to send. You're gonna have to send us a screenshot that you've subscribed to the podcast on any platform: YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, and you send it to, and we'll send you this portion of the video so you can learn how to cut the cord. That is, if when I say go, there's just us jumping to music and closing out, then you know that's what you got to do. So this is going to depend on if I feel like doing that work or not. All right. So Keshia, I'm about to say go, but before I say go, again, if you've already subscribed, it's a screenshot showing that you've subscribed to the podcast, or you are now a subscriber, and it can be through YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, or iHeart, or we're on a bunch of different outlets. So if we're on a different outlet that you use that screenshot, that would be great. You can DM us. We'll give our following and how to follow us at the end, and we'll go from there. You send us a DM with that screenshot, we will send you this clip. All right, Keshia, go.
I don't get like the little special music.
God. Hold on. No. See, you got me hitting wrong buttons. See, I got to give that to myself. All right, Keshia, go.
I think that was my cue to run some magic on him first. What do you think?
No, you better hurry up, man. We getting ready to close this out.
Close up your eye. Ready?
But show us how to
Okay.
cut this cord, please.
All right. So I want you guys all each to think of someone that there might be some form of conflict or negativity. Okay. If you're having trouble thinking of that conflict, then just think of somebody that may be taking up too much of your time than what you would like. Keep it simple. You too, Jerry. You gotta close your eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone that disrupts your peace just a little bit. Think of that person. Okay. And I just want you to close your eyes, take a nice long deep breath. And inhale and exhale. Okay, and I want you to just visualize like a white bubble of light above your head. And as you take a deep breath in, I want you to allow those people to come to mind. Anyone that comes to mind, just allow your spirit, allow your inner guidance to guide you. Maybe one person, maybe 10 people, maybe 3 people, maybe a situation. Breathing in and exhaling it out. Now, as you inhale this time, I want you to just draw back your energy from these people. They may have pulled in your energy. They may be sucking energy from you intentionally as well as unintentionally. And that's okay. So as you inhale, I want you to draw your energy back from these people, pulling it in, drawing it up to the crown of your head into that bubble above your head. holding your breath, clearing that energy. And as you exhale, release, bringing it back down into your body. As you're about to inhale again, allow yourself to visualize these people, places, or things. And as you inhale, pulling your energy back, visualize your energy coming back, leaving them, going up to the crown of your head, holding your breath, clearing your energy in that ball of light. And as you exhale, release, allowing it back down into your body. Feeling recharged and renewed each time you take a breath. On your third breath, notice the people that are standing before you. Once again, it's okay. It may be a loved one, a pet, a friend. Breathing in, returning your energy back to you, pulling it up above your head, washing it and clearing it. And then exhale, release, drawing it back down into your body. Now that was returning your energy back to you from people that are around you. While you're here, I want you to just take another moment and visualize any cords that may be attached. It may be around your shoulders, around your back, around your neck. Just feeling into where you're carrying any tension or stress into your body. And as you're feeling into that space, allow yourself to just connect in, visualize maybe little strings, and just slowly watch them dissolve. Clearing them off of your back, your shoulders, your neck, your stomach, and feeling yourself feel recharged. And then bringing yourself back into your body, back into this space, and opening your eyes. How do you feel?
Relaxed.
Yeah, very relaxed. Very relaxed.
And from here is where you make decisions about the person, about your relationship, or how to communicate with the person.
Okay. Nice. Nice job. I think I'm not gonna edit that. They're gonna get that for free this time around. I'm gonna subscribe about that.
That's good. I like that idea. I think everyone needs to know that.
Nah, because people be using them for evil. Anyway. So in closing, in this episode, we talked about communication, and as far as I'm concerned, it is very important. It is vital. It is critical that you be cognizant of how you communicate within this world, the messages that you send out. And it is not about what you say. It's about what you don't say. It's not about what you do. It's what you don't do. It's taking responsibility for your role in your world and how people interact with you. Because if you're not opening your mouth and communicating what is right for you, what is wrong for you, what you would like to see changed, then it is ultimately on you. Any consequences you suffer for that. So that's where I'm at with the closing. Now I'm going to ask, what's the word? I'm going to ask hypothetical Jerry Poe over here. Does he have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, man. I believe all of this comes back to accepting responsibility.
Right.
And whatever you're experiencing, whatever you're communicating, whatever is not being received from the other person in your communication, a lot of that comes back to you and taking ownership of the role that you're playing in your life. It's your life. You are the author of your story. So it's up to you to write it the way you want it to go.
There you go. Keshia May, what you got to say?
Choose peace when you're making your decisions, allowing yourself to own who you are, tapping into your core values and knowing it's okay to either stay or walk away. And communication is just that, just communication. So allow yourself to speak your truth, be who you are in your full and authenticity, and love it every step of the way.
All right, Keshia, let them know how they can get at you and why they should get at you, please.
Okay, they can get at me through my website, which is KeshiaMartin.com. You can also find me on all social platforms by Keshia Martin as well, through my name. And you can come at me for energy work or if any form of spiritual coaching and helping you release some of the ties that you're carrying right now.
All right. Jerry Poe, the campaign managing, hypothetical living, motivational, educational speaker guy. What's up? Let them know what's
You
up.
can reach me at jerrypoe.com as well as all social media platforms at Jerry Poe.
And you are available for hire, right?
I am available for anyone who needs consulting, coaching, whether it be sales, marketing. That's why the whole campaign managing thing happened, because they wanted my marketing skills. So that's why I was tapped to do that.
All right. That's a beautiful thing. And you can reach me. You can find me at djsilk on all social medias, but I prefer Instagram. By the way, hey, you have a podcast that you want to film, tape, record? I don't know the right term for 2021. But I may be able to help you. Anything from straight audio all the way up to 4K video. It's for real. So, and if you need a producer, I can do that as well. At djsilk, and if you go to my Instagram profile and click on the link, you will see my Linktree link, and that has all the links to the content that I create, my Mixcloud channel, my Medium page, and as well as all of the options for consuming this podcast, as well as other podcasts that I am a part of. So really want to thank you guys for spending your time with us, for allowing us into your head. It means a lot. Really do appreciate it. And remember, take responsibility for how you communicate and interact with the world. Until the next time, this is the End Podcast. Please be well, be safe, be blessed, and be good, and go do something fun and do something nice for somebody just because. All right, we are out of here. Bye.